Hey, hey, hey. Here we are. Didn't think I'd make it for part 2, but I got out just in time. And boy, do I have a chapter for you guys. But before I do that, I just want to talk about what's going on tomorrow. We know West Coast, they're talking about shutting down. We got possibly another shutdown tomorrow. Second shutdown. We've been through it once. We can do it again. I ain't tripping. Y'all folks shouldn't be tripping either. That being said, that just continues the momentum of what I've been talking about over the past couple weeks. If you notice all the changes going on, there's changes all over. And if you ain't recognizing the signs, if you ain't recognizing the changes, then how are you going to know what's coming up? That being said, this next chapter I'm about to get into, now if you don't belong to the church, then, and you're just viewing me and you're just following me, I don't know, maybe you just like what I say, maybe you just like the way I talk. But what I'm about to do next in this next chapter is really scrutinize something that has been in the church for so long. And if you're not a part of it, you might not know exactly what I'm talking about, but you'll see that it fits everything that's going on right now. If you look behind me, look at this. Look at this scene behind me. This is beautiful right now, because what I'm about to do is beautiful. Now, in chapter 11, if you remember where we left off in John's vision, what's coming next, and the reason why I wanted to stop so that I could do a part 2 with this following one is because it's very important, and it's been a lot of debate in the church about who's who and what's what. And that's about the two witnesses. The two witnesses that come in the end of times. So I'm going to read the chapter and then explain it to you guys. But first, man, look at the colors of this ocean right now, my guys. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm telling you. If you ain't on warrior culture, if you ain't got the warrior culture, baby, that's what it's all about here. That's what we all be about. That's why I can say these things. That's why I can do these things. Because I have the way of death in my mind constantly. 100% of the time. It doesn't ever leave me. And so I'm going to help get you guys through this. Because I know that there are my boys, my guys who are lost in the church right now. Remember, you guys are asleep and I'm about to wake you up. If I haven't already, that's why you're listening to me. Because there's a certain tone, there's a certain dialect to my language and to the voice that I'm using that is ringing something true deep in your ears. And I'm telling you, I need you guys. I can't have you guys sleeping on me. Nah, bro. Sleeping's over. We've been doing that for hundreds of years. And now we're waking up. And so on that note, I want to point it to the word of where we were this morning. If you're watching my videos, make sure you're doing it in order. And here we go. I'm going to sit on the chair this time. I've been sitting on the ground all day. Oh, yeah. Warrior culture, baby. That's what it's all about. Getting culture. So in the previous chapter, we saw how John got his scroll sealed up, and the angel that visited him on the island of Patmos basically tells him at the end of that chapter, hey, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. And this is the segue into chapter 11. And we're just going to cover this one chapter for a couple reasons, because like I said, this is a very important chapter in the church. And also because the following chapter is another big piece of raw meat that I'm going to be force feeding you guys, and you're not going to like it. But here we go. Chapter 11. I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and was told, go and measure the temple of God and the altar with its worshippers, but exclude the outer court, do not measure it, because it has been given to the Gentiles. The Gentiles, very important, hold on to that. They will trample on the holy city for 42 months, and I will appoint my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. For those of you who don't know, 1,260 days is the same as 42 months. Hold on to that 42 months, because in the next video, the 42 months is going to come up again. They are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands, and they stand before the Lord of the earth. So he's putting the vision back to the 7 spirits of God, the 7 lampstands that are before the God. He's only focusing on 2 of them right now. If anyone tries to harm them, fire comes from their mouths and devours their enemies. This is how anyone who wants to harm them must die. So before I continue the chapter, let's put it out there. Who are these witnesses? The church has had many debates about this, and I'm about to just blow it out right now and tell you exactly who it is. It's Christ. One guy. It's him. This is where we get the whole, 1 plus 1 plus 1 and 3. But let me take you back to the book of John, the gospel, where it says, this is the words of Christ when he was alive, and he says, I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the Father who sent me. And we know that when Christ is around, he doesn't need 2 witnesses. See, they were always trying to get him for blasphemy. And in order to do that, you need at least 2 witnesses for a crime, or to judge, because that's what's written in the law. So he's saying, I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the Father who sent me. So what I am saying is, when he comes back, he's gonna pull the same game. It's not gonna be 2 individuals, it's gonna be 1. Because in that 1 individual is 2. And this has been the whole thing in the church. Because a lot of Christians, they're on board with saying that their God is 3 in 1. But they have a lot of problem going the other way if you say, well, yeah, but your God is also 1 out 3. They have power to shut up the heavens so that it will not rain during the time they are prophesying. And they have power to turn waters into blood. Who is that? Where have we heard that before? Who else turns water into blood? Sounds awfully similar, right? To something that Christ can do, would do. He has the power to shut up the heavens. Absolutely. And to strike earth with every kind of plague as often as they want. This is what Christ is saying when he came and he says, I didn't come to bring peace, I came to bring a sword. He just never used it. And thank God that he didn't use it. So what I'm saying is, let's not give him any more reason to come and do it again and use it. Now when they have finished their testimony, the beast that comes up from the abyss will attack them and overpower and kill them. Their bodies will lie in the public square of the great city, which is figuratively called Sodom and Egypt, where also their Lord was crucified. For 3.5 days, some from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial. Sounds very similar after his crucifixion, ain't it? The inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them and will celebrate by sending each other gifts, because these two prophets had tormented those who live on earth. But after 3.5 days, the breath of life from God entered them, and they stood on their feet in terror and struck those who saw them. Then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud while their enemies looked on. At that very hour, there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. Now keep in mind, John is on a ship, and he's seeing all this happen. His mind. So, and you follow me, right? His body is also down at the island of Patmos. This is how abductions happen. And this is how visions happen. At that very hour, there was a severe earthquake, and 1/10 of the city collapsed. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the survivors were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. A lot different than the other times when people have seen the glory of God, but they still don't, they still keep still keep sinning. The second woe has passed. The third woe is coming. So at this moment, this is the end of when the angel, the sixth angel in the mind's eye chakra, receives its letter. So at the end of that letter, and at the end of this blown trumpet, this sort of devastation happens. But it's not compared to what's going to happen when the seventh angel receives his letter. The seventh angel sounded his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven which said, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Messiah, and he will reign forever and ever." That takes us back to the graph that I showed you when I drew out what it looks like in heaven and where these voices come from. Right? It comes from the rainbow that surrounds the throne. And the 24 elders who were seated on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshiped God, saying, "We give thanks to you, Lord God Almighty, the one who is and who was, because you have taken your great power and have begun to reign. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come. The time has come for judging the dead and rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your people will revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroy the earth." Remember, no, I'll save that for later. Then God's temple in heaven was opened, and within his temple was seen the ark of his covenant. And there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, an earthquake, and severe hailstorm. Remember, this is always when something's going on the ship. At this point, there's an opening, and we see the Ark of the Covenant, and we see God's temple, which is on Mount Zion, and we find that out later in the chapters. It's a rough chapter to get through. That's the end of it. But if you take the knowledge that I just gave you and stop thinking that these witnesses are two people, the witnesses is one. It's Christ. Again, did the same thing when he was here the first time. Remember, he says, I'm two, you know. On his return, he's gonna play the same game. Why? Because it works. Gonna play the same game, my bros. That's why I'm telling you, warriors, it's warrior culture, baby, culture. Wake up. Because it's better to be on this side right here, right now, than being on the other side not knowing what's coming. Look at that pigeon. Look at that pigeon. That was beautiful. These birds, man. I'm telling you, you've got to get out into nature. You've got to get out there. You got to get your head out of the internet. You got to get your head out of this consumer stylistic lifestyle that has been preaching. Remember, you're like, oh no, I've never been preached to. Yeah, you've been preached to your whole life by TV, by magazines, by movies, all this other stuff. And it's probably gotten you pretty far. But this physical world is only half of the journey. It's only half the journey, people. Normally, I would tell you not to even worry about this kind of stuff. But because so much stuff is changing in the world and we're kind of going through all these rifts, right now, yeah, pay attention. Get out into nature, meditate, and get your head out of the microchips. Get your head out of the computers. That's not real life. That's not real life, my guy. My boys, my bros, that's why y'all are asleep right now. Because you're tripping over all this stuff that you have no control over. What do I always say? If it's in front of your face, or if it's within 6 feet distance, that's what you can control. You can't control anything else outside of that. And that's why your mind is all twisted. Because you think you can control things through the internet, and I'm telling you, you can't. I don't mean to spout like that, but they got me working at a certain hour that I don't like working. Whew. Breathe in that air, baby. If you're watching this, go outside. Breathe in that air. Take it in. Because once I can get you guys on the page of it's going to be all right, then it will be infectious. You'll infect others around you. And they'll look at you and they'll want to be near you because they know that you're the light. And they'll be like, man, stuff is awfully dark right now. I could really use a beacon, a lighthouse. Culture, baby. Warrior culture. I'm so stoked. I'm so excited because I know that I'm gonna have some brothers here soon. Some guys who will stick it out day and night. Who aren't worried about where they're gonna sleep at night. Who aren't worried about when their next meal is. They're not worried about when their next girlfriend is. They definitely aren't tripping over women. Definitely not. We get our act together, they'll follow. At least the ones who recognize. A lot of these women don't recognize, my guys. They don't recognize. Because, what do I always say? They've already been fed the image of a man. And the female consciousness is pursuing that. But let me tell you, that image of a man is not the image of a man that God has. Nah. We know that from King David. He tells us exactly what a man is. And the fact that we even reference the old kings, that's a good sign. That's a good sign, my guys. I have nothing but confidence in us. Nothing but confidence. Look at this beautiful water. Look at this ocean. I tell you what, man. If we could make a swap so we don't have to go back to the earth and we can go back to the ocean, that would be it. Who knows? Maybe we can. But you gotta come correct. And you gotta discipline yourself. What you're putting into your bodies, I hope from my other videos I have inspired you to cut out meat. I hope that I have inspired you to quit looking at porn. I hope that I have inspired you to take at least 20 minutes a day to exercise. I don't care what you do, do yoga. Shadow box, that's what I always say, shadow box. All these little things start discipline. And that creates this unstoppable boulder just rolling down a hill. I hope that I've inspired you to spend less money, to stop buying as much stuff. Because let me tell you something, you ain't gonna be able to take that with you, baby. You ain't gonna be able to take none of that with you. You're not even going to be able to take the clothes on your back. That's why he says, that's why Christ says, invest in white clothing as to not go shamefully naked. These people who aren't disciplining themselves, these people who aren't putting junk in their bodies, toxins in their bodies, they're gonna get yoked up butt naked in front of everyone, and they won't have the white clothes to cover them up. That's why it's so important. What do I say? Keep yourself balanced, left, right, and right down the center line of line. Because once you get those chakras lined up, as soon as you take a step left, as soon as you take a step right, those things will topple over unbalanced. Western culture, it's set up so that it knocks you off balance without you even knowing that you're off balance. I'm teaching you to walk right now, and I haven't even put the steps out yet. I'm just gearing your mind towards the first thought of taking a first step. Mm. Get out and watch the sunrise. Get out and watch the sunset. It's good for you. See the sun come up, see the sun go down. Don't miss it. Don't miss those 2 cycles throughout the day. You do that, you'll start getting more in tune to the nature around you. The very air around you will start to work with you. If you feel like everything's working against you, you're not plugged into nature. You're just not. Now, the good thing that I've been seeing and hearing, where I've been at, I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed a lot of people fixing their language. Or at least people my age, they're using better vocabulary. Now, y'all know me. Y'all know how important words are to me. Y'all know how important sentence structure is to me. And I'm just going to re-solidify that right now. Your language that you use today shapes your tomorrow. If you're cursing today, you're going to have a curse tomorrow. There's a reason why they're called curses. There's a reason why they're called swears. You want that good stuff, you want to attract good stuff to you, you got to put good language out. There's nothing hip, let me tell you, there's nothing hip about cursing. There ain't nothing about it. I be writing all day, and I don't need to. I write the hippest stuff you could think of. Not one curse word's in it. So if you think that you're being mature, if you think that you're being, Mr. or Mrs. grown up because you curse, that's worse than cursing because you stubbed your toe. I would rather have you curse because you banged your hip on the side of the wall instead of just doing it because you think that it's making you look or making you act older. We ain't got time for that. We ain't got time for that. If that's you, fix yourself. And I can say that because I fixed myself. And I know other men who have fixed themselves. I know women who have fixed themselves in that area. And as a warrior that you're waking up to, we know. That's what makes us so good at what we do, is that we know that the language that we use, pre-combat, mid-combat, after combat, language all leads up to it, baby. Man, that was good for now. The next chapter I'm gonna give it to you guys. I don't want to say tomorrow. I'm not gonna put a deadline on it because the next chapter is it's fun. It's fun. If you have children, if you have kids, I hope that they come in with you. Sit them down at the computer and watch my next video with them, because it's a fun one. And I know you're thinking, how can there be fun in the book of Revelation? I will show you, because this next chapter is the middle of the wheel that connects all the spokes. And it's so flavorful. It's so flavorful, it's gonna taste good. Alright, I love you guys. Remember that, I love you. All you animals, I love you. To the creatures of the sea and the creatures of the air, I love you. I'll see you next time.